Well, happy Tuesday. It's been a while, so I'm feeling a little rusty. I had the week off, so I'm
Hmm.
so happy that you're here. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, and you're listening to the Dr. Laurie Davis Show. And on Tuesdays, we discuss business, finance, well being, you name it. Ramin and I can talk about it. So, good morning, Dr. Ramin Modiri. How are things in California? I hear the temperatures are going up.
It's been beautiful, I have to admit it. But also, I can't believe it's end of February. So hopefully everywhere. Once March arrives, just the thought of March, it feels good because
Yeah,
spring is coming in 3 weeks or so. It's a good feeling, especially for our
excellent.
Canadian friends. And our northeastern part of United States and northern part of United States. It's wonderful to get that snow melted.
Yes, and even here in the Great Northwest, it's been above zero temperatures all week. We went up as high as 11 degrees Celsius. And so the snow is like, ooh, and you
Hmm.
can start to see the grass around the houses turning green. So it's all great. We love it.
Yeah.
And you can smell spring in the air. So I'm hoping that our viewers are recognizing that in their part of the country. But Ontario, our province of Ontario, had some pretty severe storms last weekend, a couple back to back. So
Um,
they're dealing with ice. But here's what I do know. Do you know what Canada did last week?
mm,
They sent 20 tons of ice or salt,
oh,
20 tons of salt to the northeastern section of the United States because, of course, they had those ice storms, those snowstorms,
yes.
and that salt helped with parkways, driveways, parking lots in front of malls, etc. So good on us. Hey, we produce salt, so that's a good thing.
Yes, salt is good. I remember
So,
those days living in Connecticut and working Boston. Oh, I
oh,
don't miss those days. You are,
I do not miss the weather.
yeah.
I talked to my mom who lives in Nova Scotia on the East Coast, and it's either raining or freezing rain or so. She hasn't been out in a week or so
Oh,
because of the ice,
yeah,
because that stuff creates ice and it's very treacherous for seniors, right?
absolutely. It's worse than
Yeah.
snow. Snow is nice. I don't
Well,
mind.
snow's good.
That's yeah.
Ice is not.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you have planned for us today? I can't wait to hear what you've got on the docket for today.
Well, I am gonna talk about something exciting, and it kind of brought the subject came to me after. First of all, last week I had a wonderful visit to one of our universities here, and
Yeah, tell us
seeing
about
the
that.
well,
Yeah,
it
tell
was
us.
great to see these young upcoming generation with hope and challenges. I mean, there are a lot of questions, but the, the talk that I had was these are more focused students. It was about investing, but also life, the careers, and so one thing it was really interesting is our education system still, regardless of high schools or universities, they are still focused on so much of techniques, which is that's what people go. I mean, if you're an engineer, you want to learn about all the tools. So it's a lot of author game. The same thing with finance and investing, and when it comes to uh, anthropology, it's all about the education, but it's a lot of author education. So it's about learning from outside. And there's very little emphasis on inner education and starting from really early age. It's about understanding the philosophy of life, about ourselves, our belief system, how we can handle real life problems. And that's what, I think the biggest gift that we have giving to our youth is actually working. Working teaches us so many
Mhm.
lessons, and it's not about you know making that money because we need it. It's the habits and interaction with our society and the people and the again what we learn, the structure. And I really value that a lot. And that's one thing again in the university. I see there's so much of, again, external information, but so little internal information. And of course it's your cup of tea, right? So that's what it brings us to understanding our self-worth, our beliefs. So that was one catalyst last week, and that's the reason I want to talk about the subject I'm going to talk about today. But also another catalyst was in Sunday Times in UK, the best-selling book in last few months has been a book called Trading Game. And the trading game is about a trader. His name is Gary Stevenson. And Gary was one of the top currency traders in London for Citibank. And he made a lot of money. That was from 2008 to 2014 for 6 years. He made good amount of money. He came from a poor background. So it's like the book says, from rags to riches. Um, but he's been all over. He's doing his podcast, and if you watch, there's a lot of anger in him, going back to his roots, bashing millionaires and billionaires. Although he's made some money, he's not there. I mean, his best year, I think, was 2011. Then he had the Greek situation. I don't know if he made like 1.2 million or 2 million, something like that. So he's not like this huge, making mega money in trading. Um, but he is all over that we have to tax all the wealthy people and we have to give it to the poor people. Now, it sounds, again, very populistic. A lot of people who are in the lower end, they will appreciate it. But the source of this is not from the heart. It's more of the anger. And that's what I don't appreciate it. But also I wanted to see why he's feeling this way. Again, he quit trading in 2014. So it's been around. He comes across and he dictates. He says, I know exactly with the economy, what's going to happen because I've been successful when I was trading. He went to London School of Economics, and mathematics. So he did have a good education. His dad was he worked for the post office. He had a brother and sister. So he comes from East London, they were poor neighborhood. So he has that and he made it, but there is this guilt and anger and shame. And that's what I like to discuss. What separates that people who stay poor and they are poor from people who become wealthy and rich? And also I have to differentiate that just being rich doesn't mean you're wealthy. Just being rich doesn't mean you're happy. I know many people who don't have a lot of money, but they're happy. I know a lot of wealthy people, not wealthy, I mean rich people, are miserable. They always think, oh, so and so is better than me. And they're always trying to catch up with, they call it in California, with the Joneses. And, oh, how come they're driving? Or how come their house is 15,000 square feet and mine is 9,000? I mean, so this comparison happens. So just having money, that's not the sign of happiness, and we've talked about that in the past. And it's not a sign of being wealthy. But if I had a choice, if I want to be happy, I'd rather have the money and be happy than be poor and be happy. That's just because it allows me to do all the things that I always wanted to do with my mission, helping others, have that time freedom to travel the world and help not only just the poor, but in a way of, when we talk about poor, we just think about financials, but it could be poor from health point of view, it could be from education point of view, it could be from spiritual point of view. So there's a lot of different ways that people are poor. But if we have that freedom of time, we can help those because we got the right compass, we got the right heart. So that's what, again, the argument about making money is, why some people feel guilty when they make money. So what I'm going to talk about again, what again it separates people who do not end up being wealthy. And this is from the holistic. I'm not going to talk too much about the socioeconomics. I'm not going to talk a lot about, okay, their surroundings because they're poor, because the generations they've been poor, but getting outside that box and what it takes you to become a wealthy minded person. And I just talked about happiness. And before I go any further, I know you have a brand new book is coming up. It's all about joy in life and how we don't have to spend money to have a joy. There's a lot of things you do. So before I go any further, do you mind just briefly mention about your book, upcoming book, which I think is going to be bestseller? So I don't think, I believe it will be. So.
Well, there's a bit of a story to this because many years ago I was broadcasting and in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and within 10 weeks my show was syndicated to British Columbia. It was Chum Radio, Canada's largest national radio chain, and I had a couple of dudes listening to the show, and one of them, his name is Alan. They're both passed away now, but Alan contacted me once I was back in Nova Scotia, and he said, my partner and I are really excited about you and what you're sharing, and my partner passed away in January, and I want to give you his notes. Well, I had no idea, Ramin. Wow. I saw this a Purelator courier coming up the driveway, and then it was a little box, and here were all of Bill's notes. And Bill they had 2 properties in Vancouver, Canada, on the water, where they conducted their happiness workshops. I mean, we're talking 1998, 1997. And I still have it, this beautiful letter that Alan wrote me. He was the executor to his partner's will. And he said, Bill would want this, and I want this, and here are his notes. So I went ahead and created a workshop, 21 Days to Happiness. And it's a self-directed document where people could do their own work, and et cetera. And we sold a lot of those. There was no facilitator involved. We just did that. So then when our good friend Sylvia Somerville, she and I connected, she said, you've got like 100 books in your repertoire. You just don't know it. And I said, yeah, I know. And she said, what's the first one you'd like to produce? And I said, 21 Days to Happiness, Joy, and Inner Peace. So what we've done is we've taken the workshop, we've converted it into a book where you do the work on your own. It's a good read, but it's also a working document. And I wrote it at a grade 3 level. So I actually want that in everybody's hands, all our youth, our young adults. Because we all know it takes 21 days to change a habit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people online saying it takes 28 days. No, you're wrong. It's 21 days to change a habit. So if we do something consistently for 21 days, then it becomes a habit. And then back to you, we can be doing that financially, emotionally, health-wise. We just change one behavior and do it for 21 days, and then it becomes automatic. So that's what the book's about, how to change those behaviors. Over to you.
That's excellent. Yeah, I mean, that complements every part of our lives. And I want to emphasize that word you mentioned, consistently. And that's the key. Because a lot of us read why people go to these seminars for like 3 days, even 5 days. And they think, oh, I know so much. I'm going to do this, that. There's no follow through. There's no consistency. It's like a sugar high. And then they lose it. But not, based on what I've seen from your work, is step by step. And they are easy steps to digest. So, and very proactive. So it's not like passive. It's about our joy, because my happiness might be a little different than yours. So, yes, and that's absolutely what you've created. Is, if I'm not mistaken, you made it really tailored to the individuals. And that's what it becomes a lasting habit. And it's amazing, Dr. Laurie, we get bad habits and good habits. But once we got it, it's very difficult to get rid of it, whether it's good or bad. Now we have to do many more times to just get that conditioning, right? So why don't we emphasize on good things and positive things and make those habits? Bad habits are instant gratification, so they're easier to program. But the good
Absolutely.
habits are the rewarding and they expand.
Mhm.
So, and that
Mhm.
brings me to for the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes talking about what the wealthy people, in a good way, people that they are actual wealthy about their health, about their money, what habits do they have? And what differentiates them from the poor mentality and poor habits? So before I do that, again, this Gary is like, he's bashing all the billionaires. We have to differentiate what is a billionaire, because sometimes when we are in difficulties, we could say, oh, they got lucky, they did this. But a lot of billionaires that especially in the last few decades, they have been creators. They have created a business, they've hired people, helped the economy, they have invested, they have taken risks. It's not like old days. Majority of the times it was inheritance, for instance. When you have the inheritance, yeah, there is that, okay, they didn't really earn that. And I also go to the third part. There are some billionaires, especially in developing countries, emerging countries, that, and I can name some names, in like in Mexico, the richest person, they become billionaires. They do have innovations and they do have the ideas, but it's a lot to do with politicians, the leadership. They working with the government, and there's a lot of corruption and other things. Let's say there's a contract, they get it. So there's a lot of times that happens. In this situation, when I talk about successful people, these are mostly entrepreneurs. They have created something, and bashing them, I don't think that resolves anything, because as I mentioned, they are helping, and they are actually the biggest personal charitable people out there. And what Gary is talking about, he says, well, we give that money to the government and they will do that. I don't know many successful governments that they have been really helping in a long run. Yes, there is some social safety net. It's important to every society, but governments, the bureaucracy, there's so many layers of inefficiency that really they are not the best solution. And if you don't accept this, you can go to any motor vehicle department. It's gotten a little better, or post office. You see, there is that again inefficiency. So again, talking about Gary, there have been questions. Well, how much of a charitable work you're doing? How much you're helping? And so we cannot bash billionaires, because people like Warren Buffett or Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos of the world, they are uh, really helping a lot of uh, communities. So we want to keep that in mind. So I have to mention again that anger. Why someone who just comes from the poor background makes that money? Someone like Gary, he has that anger. And a lot of times you've seen it. We've talked about the athletes. We've talked about in music world. We've had like the rap music, for instance, the hip hop music. And again, you see there's a lot of mismanagement of money. And one of the root causes could be they still have their anger from their childhood because of the suffering they went through. So what they do, number one, they never had any toys or anything, but they get rid of that money. They waste it because they think that would help them to get rid of that anger. They well, they equalize. They think the symbol of anger is because of the money that made. So some of those things, It's subconsciously built in them, and that's what happens, that a lot of these people have guilt and shame, and we have to redefine that. And one of the most important things, and I know you're the master of that, is when you think about our self-worth, our lives are all about what are we feeding ourselves, or what we telling ourselves, which dictates how we behave. And those are toxic a lot of times. We have to replace that with the positive feeding. And the other problem we have, especially when it comes to finances, the beliefs that we have, it's not our beliefs, it's the others' beliefs. It's from outside. The good news is, if we were fed from outside, whether it was our parents, it was our community, our teachers, coaches, colleagues, you know what? We can get rid of those beliefs as well. And
Mhm.
that's the beauty of it. We were not born with it. And that's the thing, that it takes time. But if we can replace, we're talking about joy, if we can replace the habit of joy, and the real joy, I'm not talking about, again, I always use that sugar high, that we have one sweet thing or the ice cream and we are good for 10 minutes. And after that, we're back to what we were. Why? It's about fundamentally change that, life will be so much better. Um, Going back to the belief system again, you work with that, is how do we develop those beliefs? First of all, we hear about it. And I know you have many examples, talk about money, because I'm talking about finances. Uh, when you ask our parents, or dad or mom, Dad, I mean, can I buy this? Oh, what do you think? You think I'm a money tree, or you think money grows on the tree? Or it's something like that. When it happens, it tells us, well, money is hard to come by. Rich people are evil, and all those money beliefs. But also, more importantly, is what we see. What we see in action. Again, our parents are the first roles. And I give you one example, and I know it happens. Again, you've done a lot of sessions with couples. The biggest, unfortunately, the biggest problem when it comes to relationships, number one is money, and the other one is sex, right? So those two
Yes.
taboo subjects. The problem is, a lot of times, and I know firsthand, I know how it's not even the lack of money, it's the lack of understanding each other with the two completely belief systems. And it's that you always talk about the communication and understanding where we come from. And I give you one simple example. In marriages, it a lot happens. We talk about, in this situation, it could be both ways, by the way. Lives are changing, but generally, especially in my culture, coming from overseas, especially in Middle East, the daughter goes to mom because there's an ice cream truck is running by, or she wants to buy a dress, goes to mom. Mom, I want to go get an ice cream, or I want to buy this dress. Mom says, well, go ask your dad. I don't have the money. You ask your dad. So go ask the dad. Dad says, oh, okay, honey, here is the money. You go buy the ice cream, or you buy the dress that you want. So you equate that, and especially again, it happens to marriage. You equate that, okay, first of all, women are not supposed to have money. So I'm not supposed to have the money. My husband is going to give me the money, and that money is for my pleasure. So I'm going to go get the ice cream. I want to go buy that purse. I'm going to go buy that shoe or the dress. So they equate the money with pleasure and spending. So here, husband says, wait a minute, honey, what happened to the money? He said, well, I spend it. But why? Because the belief system is the husband is supposed to give that money. So although the money might not be the lack of it, but it's the understanding. And that's what the children see. There's a fight about the money, and they believe, oh, money cannot be good because it brings, again, friction. or there's a lack of money, and that's what the father says, oh, you've got to watch your spending. And as I mentioned, it might not even be the lack, it's about managing that money. And we will have another session when it comes to sex and other things. So um, and it's interesting that as children, as you know, a lot of times we copy our parents, and it takes both. So it's not like I just copy my dad's behavior. So you could have maybe a dad who managed his financial affairs the best way, but mom was the one who was mismanaging, or the other way, the dad was gambling and doing things. It's both of them affecting us. So what we do a lot of times, either we copy it or we rebel against it. We see our dad, for instance, was so strict in spending money. So we have this budget, and it can go extreme the other way too. You know what? I'm going to be the rebel, and it happens usually the either middle child or the second child. They become the rebel. They say, I'm going to spend every money I got. I want to live for today. I'm not going to think about my dad says, oh, this one is for the rainy day. And they kept putting that rainy day aside, suffering through today. And that rainy day comes when they don't have the energy to use it. So it's like now they got this big pile of money with no joy, and they're not healthy enough to use it. So enjoy. So that's what happens. The other thing I have to say is we have in life, and you again, you put it nicely. Um, I would call it the ostrich effect. We bury our head in the sand, pretending nothing is happening. If we are suffocating because we cannot pay the bills, or we keep believing that there is no problem, and that's the denial. So that also affects our lives. So and next as I said, in the next 20 minutes or so, I will talk about what separates the wealthy mind and the wealthy person from someone who is, again, that has the not just poor mentality, but they never can see themselves they can be rich. What happens? And it is again more of a belief that we've gotten from outside. So how we can overcome that. And I think it's important to see that what, again, especially with our younger people, what could separate them. So some of the ideas are this. Number one, when it comes to getting wealthy and being rich, wealthy people, they make a commitment. It's almost like in a relationship. It's almost our career. There is that commitment. I say, I am going to do this. You're talking about your book. You say, I'm going to finish this book in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. We commit. When it comes to people who are not rich, they wish for it. They want it. They say, oh, I want to be rich. Well, it's good to want it, but you have to make an effort. The other problem I've seen is a lot of people, the wealthy people, they focus on opportunities. They see things and they say, wow, this is great. And again, it's so interesting, Dr. Laurie. I've observed you. You talk about that in a different way. The poor people see obstacles, problems. So, oh, I can't do that. That's a big challenge. That can versus can't becomes an obstacle, and that's what these people do. One of the big ones I've seen over the years of training traders, a lot of traders, they lose their money within 3 months to a year. And it happens with a lot of wealthy people that you see versus some, again, people who are not wealthy, is the admiration. I admire successful people. I admire people who have reached something that I strive to be. So basically, I want to model them. If they're wealthy, if there's a great trader, and I do have very good friends, like unlike like Gary has made maybe 1 or 2 million a year. My friends, and they're close trading friends, they make 15, $16 million a year. They're happy. Nobody hears about them. Some of them they're on TV, but they don't have any resentment to the people who are better than them. But when you go to the poor society, there are times that there is that envy, there's that resentment, why so and so has more money. And as a matter of fact, that's what the guilt comes from. Again, I'm using Gary as an example. He decided he was a paper boy, he decided to work, he decided to go to school, he was smart. So he went from here, he broke that taboo and became wealthy, but he still has a guilt because he's looking at them and why the other people, his friends are poor. They cannot buy a house. What's going on? Then I feel bad about it. The idea is that resentment is a poison. And this is again, embracing success. You say, son or cousin, I'm so proud of you. You made it. How did you do that? Teach me. Let me know. Oh, he got lucky, or he robbed someone, or he had a relationship with someone. So that's another thing. It's a big one in many communities that you see. In those communities, Dr. Laurie, I know you're very familiar. Actually, money is not the problem. The lack of money is not the problem in some of the communities. It's the mentality of using that money. It's that managing that money because they've never been trained, but also they've been trained that, if you don't use, you lose. And, oh, basically, I got to have the immediate pleasure. Speaking of the same thing, is we see the people that we associate with. If you're with positive people, people who are uplifting, you have no help but to be uplifted. And when you are talking to people who are always negative, the complainers, they actually like to join that group because it makes them feel better about their own problems. So the complaining becomes even uh, uh, a bigger issue and more negative, but that's their comfort zone. So is that positivity or pessimistic? That plays a role. And these are big things when it comes to, again, succeeding. So I'd rather be with more successful people than unsuccessful people. We talk about, again, you've used it, we are average of the 5 people we associate with. I go even more than that, 5 people that they influence. If I'm talking to someone that I've seen successful in the 5 in different areas of life, and I see they're actually influencing me, I become them. But when I'm talking to people who put me down and I say, oh, yeah, well, there must be something wrong with me, or I'm glad, I'm not the only one who has that problem. This is another big one. And I know you and I, we've talked about that. And it's huge. It's having that confidence to willing to promote what I'm doing, what my values are. And I know I've been guilty of that. I have to tell you. It's like, oh, he's so humble, or she is so. There's a humility about that. No, it's great. The hanging fruit. The tree is. I know a lot of successful, very wealthy people. When you talk to them, you never know that they have they're billionaires because they talk to you as a human being. That's different because that's the kind nature, and that's important. But they also talk about the things that they can help you with. If I'm not going to talk about what I'm doing, and they say, well, people will find out about this, you are really depriving your community and your society from all the things that you could do. And my godmother always told me, said, it's bigger sin not to share what you know and what you could do than actually bragging about or talking about it. We cannot leave this life without sharing what we have learned or the goods that we can do. Otherwise, we were just object and we came and left. We just existed. So, on the other hand, a lot of, again, when we have the poor mentality, oh, I cannot sell. Oh, promotions are bad. It's not, they think that I'm, deceiving someone. No. So it takes a lot of guts to actually be able to say what I could do for you. And you can help. Um, This is another big one for me, and it took me a long time to talking about universe. Wealthy people are excellent receivers. They are believing that the universe or God sees them as deserving. Yes, it's okay. On the other hand, again, when you go to poor mentality of poor receivers, oh, I'm okay, no, thank you, and the thing is they resist. No, be grateful. God loves grateful people. Universe, be open because things just don't come to me, they go through me. So if I receive it, then I can help the others because I know I have the capability, the compass, the spirituality, the heart. So why should I resist that? And that's a big one when it comes to, again, wealth, and these are people who made millions and billions of dollars. One more thing is it's when it comes to wealthy, and I talk about traders, but also people who've been successful in life, are they look at results, the outcome as a barometer rather than getting paid on their time. They think, oh, I work from 9 to 5. Oh, it's great. I come home, have dinner, watch TV. They feel that this is what my value is based on I'm working 8 hours a day. You can see some, again, in trading, I can tell you, they've been times make in 1 hour, made more money than someone makes in a whole month. It's about what we did, or creating a job or creating a business could hire thousands and thousands of people and helping others, and that's the results oriented. So it was not about, oh, you know what, I had my 8 hours, time to go home or come to go to my favorite social place. So that's also important. Another big one is the wealthy people think about both. It's always win-win. It's not about give and take in a way, or what can I take from you? But when we think about poverty, we think about either or. If I win, so and so loses. If I lost, well, they must have won. We can have both sides be a loser. In life, it happens a lot of times. It happens when we have our families, the children. But there's also times that there's a win-win situation. Um, Another big one is when you think about wealthy people, they look at net worth. They don't look at on income. And I give you a lot of good examples when it comes to income because I have a lot of friends, and over the years with my clients, I have clients that make $1 million a year. A year. If you look at $1 million a year, you said, wow, they're making good sum of money. But they had a habit of spending, not feeling deserved. At the end of the day, they still had large debts. How could you make $1 million and still be in debt? So the question is, it's not about how much you make, it's how much you have and how much you keep and what you do with that. And again, I'm going back to this Gary. Gary says, the markets are rigged. As I mentioned, he made like 1.22 million. Again, I have had friends who make 15, 16 million, and one of them lost. And it's a great story, and hopefully I will have them in one of these days as a guest. He lost 8.7 million in few days. Lost eight. I mean, can you imagine? And the emotions that he went through. He had his parents' money involved, and you know what? Rather than just, well, it was upset. The emotions were so strong that he lost even more money. He came back, and 3 weeks later, he made like $12 million. It's a great story, and one of the things he tells us when we go, we visit our universities. He talks about that. It was that pain of that ego. You didn't want to let go. When he lost his first million, he kept sticking because things come back. And finally, the pain was so much. So, but the idea is he learned from that. He was something that he said, then I found out what are the things that I shouldn't do and what I should focus on. Another thing he taught me, and I've gone through this, and that's the reason I want to share these belief systems. What happens? He said, Ramin, I've mentored a lot of people, a lot of traders. I've given them everything I know from A to Z. I mean, the blueprint, and yet they don't succeed. He says, if I took my brain and then put it in there, they still won't succeed. The reason is it goes back, as I mentioned initially, it's the inner game. It's our belief system from inside, what the worth that we have inside, who we are. So if I know everything, and I know, I repeat myself, I know many people who are more intelligent than I am, and smarter than I am. And I've run to people who, you know, they have tons of degrees. They keep thinking, well, I can get more designations, or I can go to this seminar and that seminar. They still stuck because they still believing that they're not worthy. They sabotage themselves, or thinking that external, all these capsules coming in, automatically they become successful or become wealthy. And that's what the emphasis is, an inner game. And that's what, again, it really interested me with Gary, why he's so angry, why he wants to take somebody else's money. Well, go start a foundation, go start helping the people who are poor, tell them how you did it rather than having a shame. So I go back to that. Another big one is a lot of wealthy people, they act despite the fear. Although there is that fear, they say, you know, I'm going to break through. And they are the ones who have taken the risk. They go and take the risk, and they are the, 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 the ones that they go outside the box. They're willing to do that, and they get rewarded for it. And when it comes to power, we always on the guard. I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to do that. There is that always that cautiousness that doesn't allow us to grow. A big one for me, and you know, we've talked about Warren Buffett's of the world and Charles Munger's of the world, is the wealthy people that constantly learn and grow. They are never stationary. While I've talked to some people that, you know, we've talked about last week, you know, they read a book, they watch a YouTube, they know it all. They're telling everyone else what to do. And it happens again in coming from my culture background, everybody else tells everyone else. So the wealthy people are learners versus earners. They don't focus just earning. They always focus on learning. And how are we doing time-wise? I don't, if you have more time, I will give you some more, you know, if one of the important things which is important to me, and it happens in marriages too, and the children see that, and I mentioned about the root of some of the problems. A lot of wealthy people, they know how to manage their money well. They have their priorities in the right place. Their businesses are managed the right way. But when you go to the poverty, there's a lot of mismanagement. Priorities are very different, so they are very good at that. When it comes to investing and trading, you know, these entrepreneurs, they build the business, they invest, they trade, they let the money work for them, because there's always only one of us. On the other hand, when you talk about individuals that they are in that poor state, they always work hard for the money. It's every day, every time it's about for that paycheck. Again, I'm talking more holistic, so I'm not talking about, yes, there has been the poverty, the socioeconomics of, you know, we've lived in this society, everybody's poor. Granted, I'm just trying to say that there is a way out of that. So we can't, like, again, this Gary did what he did. So So there is a possibility. One thing I said saying last night is, again, when we think about these successful, wealthy people, they always look at the problems and they say, you know what? My solution is bigger than that problem. I am bigger than that problem. Rather than the other way, oh, these problems are so overwhelming. I'm going to be handicapped and I'm going to sit and do nothing about it and let it overpower me. That's where the anxiety comes. One big one, it comes to entrepreneurship, and these big billionaires who have built the businesses is they always think of creating things, how I create my life, rather than, oh, you know, life happens to me. Life is, I had no saying, and, it's bad luck, and always get these things happening. Why me? And why this? And why? We start blaming. Then after blame, we start justifying. Oh, you know what? I'm not rich because, if I was rich, I had to pay taxes. If I was rich, then everybody will come after me. They want money. If I was rich, then somebody could come, and if I have bigger, they will steal things. So we justify why we're not. So that's create those excuses. And one more thing is the wealthy people, they think big. I don't think I'm going to make 100,000 or a million. You know what? Go big, and if it doesn't happen, you still did okay. I know, like for instance, Dr. Laurie, you want to reach, and I know with our project, we want to reach 1.8 million people to make them inner and outer rich or wealthy. Whether it is knowing that how powerful they are, how valuable they are, despite all their surroundings, what has happened in generations and generations, they still the gods or the universe's child. They were born because they are worthy. And now we have that worth. What can we do with that? And if I receive this money, what do I do with that? How can I help my community? Let me make a lot more money so I can help more people rather than, oh, if I made more money, then people will come after me. So I better hide it. I better not to do anything. Um, and the last thing I would say in this subject is a lot of times, and again, I've seen it with my friends that they are, very wealthy. They actually, they're competitive. They go to win. It's not about just passing by. They take risks. They don't go in the game not to lose. Everything is defensive. Oh, I don't want to do this. I might hurt someone. I want to do this. So they're always on guard. So they're not willing to take that risk. So it's about not losing. And I see that, I mean, trading, oh my God, we take risks all the time. And if I don't take that risk, I won't be rewarded. If everything was guaranteed, then there will be any rewards because everybody is getting. So we have to spread all that. Everybody gets that when it comes to return on your money. Well, money market pays you 3 or 4%. Yeah, you don't have to take risk. But if I want to make 20 or 25%, I have to learn how to take risk. There's a difference. It is calculated risk, not foolish risk. I'm going to go jump from from the cliff because I think I can fly. Well,
No.
it doesn't work that way. So why don't I have all the tools? So
Right.
with that, again, I thought it's important to make that differentiation. And with the new workshop that I'm doing, it's about really getting the 10 weeks. I really want to help as many people, not only give them the tools, but also that inner game, knowing that they are valuable to earn that money, to be successful in trading, to understand. And one of the good things about learning is it gives you that confidence to learn more. to carry yourself. It's just amazing how our the way we believe about ourselves, it allows us to be confident, and then we become competent in taking the actions. And it all comes from the right tools, not just randomly one day read one book, one article, and then you go watch one YouTube. They say complete opposite of whatever the other one was saying. And then that's the confusion. My brain doesn't know which one is right. But when you have a right foundation, then you can build on it. So
Mhm.
that I'm done, and I sit down. But yeah, I think it's very important. Again, it triggered me when I'm listening. He has a podcast, and he's like, you look at his body language, and he's always angry, and he believed the end of the world is here in a few years,
Mhm.
and very negative, pessimistic. Uh, he says, "Oh, I have so many following, so I must be right." We'll
Yeah.
see. We shall see. I, anyway, so
Very good. Well, I took notes.
okay.
I took notes. I went, ooh, 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 ooh,
Uh,
ooh. So I'm just going to comment on a couple of them.
absolutely.
And just to wrap up, one of the things that I learned the very difficult way was that I only want, because I am a natural born giver.
Mhm.
So I see things that people need before they even see it, whether that's a bag of groceries or a workshop or a hug. It doesn't really matter what it is. So what happened for me, I got myself involved with takers. And of course, takers pick up on givers very quickly because then they can take advantage of that. So that even happened in a couple of failed marriages because I was involved with takers. So when I work with couples, there's usually a giver and a taker.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in business. I've had lots of takers in my business. And as soon as I wasn't able to give or I couldn't give, guess what? Like rats off a sinking ship, they jump, jump, jump. So to me, that's sort of how I evaluate how I'm going to relate to someone is, are they a giver too? Because if they are, then we're both going to win. Win,
Yes.
win, win, win. But when you're in friendships and relationships where you have a giver and a taker, somebody's going to lose there.
Right.
And in the past, it was always me. So I gave that up.
Hopefully that's changed.
The other thing is a Louise Hay philosophy, and this is around bills. And the bigger your bills, the more you are trusted. So don't resent your internet bill, don't resent your taxes, don't resent because actually the bigger your bills, that's bigger the trust in someone having in you that you're going to pay them. So I love that. And it shifted my attitude of belief around my bills. The bigger bills I have, that's because people trusted me with those bills. And it's my job to take care of it however long it takes. Another little personal experience, some of our viewers may not know, and I'll end with this. I was involved in the Mary Kay organization for 12 years, and I was at the top of the heap. I was a big producer, and I remember driving my first pink Cadillac to school from my part-time cosmetic business. And my colleagues, when I drove in the yard and the kids were all excited, and here was this, car, and they said, "Oh my God, Laurie, like you're so lucky." And I went, "No, luck had nothing to do with it. While you were home in the evening watching Dallas back in the 80s and eating potato chips, I was out promoting my products and services. So you stayed home. I didn't. I worked 2 evenings a week, and in a year and a half, I earned myself a car. There's no luck in that. That's just called time management." So those are just three things that came up for me as I was, making my notes. But I think you're totally on target with We have to have the inside match the outside, which is what you're really saying.
Yes.
We have to have. I used to say, well, if you want to be a billionaire or a millionaire, you have to start acting like one, and that's what attracts it to you. So if you're walking around, you're going shopping in your jammies and your clogs, and you haven't had a shower, why would $1 million try and find you? If you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of the $1 million, right? So we have to be that before we actually become that. So those were my connects that I made to your conversation. So over to you for a wrap up. We have a couple of minutes here.
No, the points well taken. Exactly. I mean, one good thing is, Laura, it's never too late.
Mm.
It is, I understand as we grow older, we got a lot of layers because of the society, because of the people we've come across, that unfortunately we have to get rid of that. But you know what? Our true self is still there. I still believe we are good. That's my belief, in our heart, and it will show up. The problem is, it goes back to the right surrounding, the right community, the right people to help us to see through that. And unfortunately, when we are by ourselves or we are in the wrong surrounding, it exaggerates all the negativity we have about ourselves. So it's
Mhm.
important to be in the right group and ask for help. It's just such a wonderful thing, because I think in our heart, most people, as I said, I believe they are good, and I can tell you, just whole days I didn't have GPS. You ask for direction, 9 out of 10 people in foreign country, they will stop and give you directions. They don't have to, but they like to help. We as a social animal, we like to help. We like having that social gathering. So
That's right.
that's my thing. Is it's never too late. We can always learn and we can always change for better. So,
Absolutely. Well, I don't think we'll add anything to that. That sounds really terrific. Tomorrow on my show, I'm having a guest from California. He's an entertainer and a musician, and
oh,
he's coming to Edmonton to perform and help fundraise for the Disability Channel. So I just want to put him out there,
yes,
and we'll be speaking with him tomorrow. And that is like such a fun thing. And so that's our show tomorrow at 12 noon.
wonderful.
So, yeah. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Bye for now. Thank you, Ramin. That was
Thank you.
amazing information as always. And I really appreciate the content that you provide to our show. It's amazing. And if you get picked up by a big network, you have to take me with you. I'm putting that on the air right now. It's on record because you're way better than some of these financial advisors I see on big networks. Just saying. So let's put that out there. Okay. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye, everyone.